Thank you. Skip.
Good morning. My name is Spencer Niles, and Rich, my school counselor, never told me anything. I don't know which is worse, but we did have, I think, some conversations in the hallway or something. That was about it. But to provide a bit of context in terms of my connection here, I'm also a counselor educator currently at Penn State, previously at the University of Virginia. And for the 26 years I've been a counselor educator, my primary work has focused on training graduate students in the area of career intervention. I've also directed a career counseling clinic for adults in the community who are either unemployed or underemployed, and I've also worked with adolescents in a variety of settings to help them make effective career decisions. So I'm pleased to be here this morning, and I'm grateful to have had the chance to learn from the many excellent presentations that have occurred so far. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the good news is that we're a lot closer to some meaningful solutions than one might assume at first glance. But I do think it requires connecting the dots across the many areas of expertise that are represented in this symposium. We do, from my perspective, every viewpoint's a point from a view, and so from my view, it seems like we are operating in a bit of a siloed mentality, all of us. So in the brief comments I'd like to make this morning, there are 3 points I'd like to share with you. First is that there is, as folks have alluded to already, there is substantial evidence within developmental psychology that can be used to inform career development interventions. We also know that careers unfold across the lifespan in a somewhat predictable pattern, especially during childhood and adolescence. And we also know that we can make learning relevant, and we can create a sense of hope within students. The United States has really been a leader, maybe the leader, in producing research related to career development theory and practice. And from that, we know that individualized career counseling is the most effective strategy, but obviously it's also the most expensive. We know that group interventions are both effective and efficient. We know that effective career interventions provide the appropriate amount of 3 types of support depending upon the student's career development needs. That's appraisal support, informational support, and probably most importantly, emotional support. We know that career development literature contains developmental frameworks, as folks have already mentioned, that identify specific career development tasks across the lifespan. And these career development tasks, which are really simply reflections of societal expectations for career behavior, change the society, you change the developmental tasks, that they tend to be predictable, that career development curricula exist to help persons cope successfully with these tasks. And we know that developmental frameworks are important because success at one developmental level, bless you, fosters success at another career development level. And we know that positive career development can be guided and facilitated by providing individual, group, classroom, and experiential interventions. These developmental progressions are really the precursors for making career and educational plans. And the National Career Development Guidelines provide detailed descriptions of these developmental tasks. So although resources exist that could be used to foster readiness for career decision making, comprehensive and systematic development programs don't happen without the support of administrators, policymakers, teachers, parents, and school counselors. The unfortunate truth is that most times career development programs exist, as Lourdes said, in piecemeal fashion, if they exist at all. And despite the lack of comprehensive and career development support, we still expect all students to make career and educational plans at specific points in their educational careers, regardless of their readiness. And this is, I agree, this is like ignoring math in elementary and middle school, and when a kid hits 9th or 10th grade, expecting them to be ready to take it on. Just doesn't make sense. I do think that there are important discussions happening here related to creating strong business and education partnerships. Employers really can provide the experience that helps students connect their school activity with their future work opportunities. But as we know, many students wonder how their future possibilities relate to their respective opportunities. Many students wonder, without hope, many students lack hope relative to their future opportunities. And without hope, planning for the future makes no sense. And without hope, planning for the future makes no sense, and current school activities lack personalized meaning. Intentional hope-based interventions provide the momentum that students need to even consider the process of systematic educational and career planning. Because with hope, students see reasons for engaged activity because they realize the connection between their current experiences and their future possibilities. And research data suggests that there is a significant connection between hope, student engagement, and academic performance. Standards-based education focusing exclusively on math, science, and language arts, while necessary, typically ignores the student development, career development connection. And when accountability standards ignore career development, it's not surprising that such activities become de-emphasized within such an educational model. So I think there's work to be done, but there are resources that can be put to work to help students manage their careers more effectively. I think we just need to connect the dots. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm a Canadian. I'm the one they let in. First of all, I want to say hats off to Harvard for making this happen. This is so amazingly important. We've got to make it a milestone event. Let me go on to say that I'm totally unqualified to be sitting at the front of the room here. I have a BA in Economics and Commerce from the Royal Military College in Canada. I went from that to jumping out of planes and mountain climbing, and then when I decided I had to stop playing games and get serious, I joined the Canadian federal government from the military to your Department of Labor equivalent, which would be our Human Resources Skills Development in Canada, and ended up inventing a computer-based system for them called Choices. And I had researched all of the systems in the US. I had a great boss who I always said he was the kind of guy who gave you enough rope to hang yourself, and as long as you didn't, he kept giving you rope. And so I researched all the US systems and made the promise, because I was really looking at what could we adapt to Canada from the US. It must be the leader. It ultimately ended up going in a slightly different direction. There was a Super Bowl of computer systems in Florida in 1979 with all the US systems at the time, and this Choices system that I'd invented in Canada. After 2 days of looking at all of them, 93% of the 365 Floridians who were there from the education department voted and chose Choices. So it turns out that Canadian system has been going in Florida ever since then, and is still going in every school in Florida. I'm very proud of that. I had no qualifications to create that system, and I've managed to go, just by being in the right place at the right time, into programs that have gone statewide. I mean, that program went statewide in 13 states and is in virtually every other state. It went coast to coast across Canada for many years and has only recently been replaced by the system I now work with, Career Cruising, across Canada. 13 other countries. I've worked with educators for 40 years around the world. I've got a perspective that I think might be a little bit unique on guidance. I think it's totally broken, totally dysfunctional. It's not working. We have to completely rethink the whole thing. And with all of that deafening silence, and I haven't seen the signs, let me just add that it's not that we don't know. We do. We know lots of terrific programs, lots of terrific resources. We're just not strategic, we're not smart, we're not pulling together, we're not doing what needs to be done to to create the transformation. And Bob's going to follow me, and I think South Carolina is perhaps the best example in the U.S. of a state that has got it together.
Good morning. My name is Bob Couch, and my experience with the guidance counselor was basically take home this big sheet and have your parents fill in the courses. So looking at me this morning, I was thinking about coming from the Doubletree over here, literally from poverty, where I had no running water and no inside toilet. Sitting here at Harvard campus is a rather daunting experience. And it does, however, tell me you can go from wherever you are to where you want to be. So I treasure that experience. I had a family that truly loved me and sought to drive me forward. My dad was an 8th grade dropout due to farming, went back and completed his degree, and he had 3,000 books in his library when he died. So education has always been important. My experience includes both establishing career centers at college level. I have sort of a triple life, one in business and industry, where I served as Vice President of Human Resources for a major hospital regional system of 7,000 employees. I have both secondary and post-secondary experience as teacher as well as administrators. To me, the topic that we have here is critical in the fact that we have to transfer the ownership of a pathway for the future to the student. And so much of what we plan to do with guidance is the guidance counselor owns it. Many times they own the decision, and so therefore it is difficult and has been difficult to transfer that ownership over to the student, where they see themselves in the driver's seat of decision making. And so we have two factors here. One, missing parents, parents that maybe are with the child but are still missing. And to be able to have the influence of the parental decision making in regards to the career decision making is a critical component as well. I believe that guidance counselors are strapped with too many administrative duties. There are too many things, and I think counselors tend to be caring people and pleasing people and helpful people, so therefore when superintendents and principals need things done, they call the counselors to do it. So that's one of the challenges we face. I do think when you look at the situation in terms of how you roll this out, I do think that we did some things in South Carolina. Hopefully I'll have a chance to talk about that here at the end. I think on career awareness, and that is the K through 5 system, is it has to be more diverse. It's more than going to an airport. It's more than having doctors come in and talk to the children. I think it has to be broader, and it has to be certainly more diverse. Secondly is that in the middle school, where you get really the career exploration, it has to be more robust. It has to be something that is meaningful, that is challenging, and we've done that in our state, I think, to help drive some of the change there. And in career preparation, and at the level of where really some of the decisions began to emerge for students, is I think there has to be opportunity for students to be able to get more experiences in the real world, and I think these experiences, whatever they may be, have to be more relevant to the student to get a real world view of what they'll be facing. I do think that a lot of counseling, and I have close to a master's in clinical psychology, and in fact had planned to go that route at one time. And I understand the other issues that counselors face, everything from suicidal tendencies and other kinds of things and issues that guidance counselors face. I do think the majority of the issues that our young people face is in career decision making. When they find passion about what they want to do, a lot of these other issues begin to fade away. Young people without purpose will find a dysfunctional purpose. And until they find a concrete purpose for which they see and can have passion and inspiration about, many of them, as we've heard in the last couple of days, there is a feeling of hopelessness. In spite of my poverty, I never lost hope, and I think that is part of the reason I'm here today. Is my parents had hope, and they transferred that to me. all families do not have that. So many times that hope is brought to the school door steps. We have to create that opportunity for students in those environments. So I think that the emphasis of the future and the coordination of guidance systems is that career development has to be the central focus of where students need to go and things they need to be able to do. And just as we found in a center I built the last year, is that when you transfer learning to the responsibility of the student, they will learn at higher levels. I think that when you transfer ownership of the future of young people and they find their passion, I think their future will change.
Thank you, Bob.